In a moment, we'll be speaking with the Iranian academic and political analyst Mohammad Marandi from the University of Tehran. But first, let's hear from the former Foreign Secretary and now Chief Executive of the International Rescue Committee, David Miliband, who was in Lebanon visiting Syrian refugee camps this morning. When he got to Istanbul, I asked him what he thought about the scale of the refugee crisis.
I think we've got the biggest refugee crisis probably since the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. I mean, the figures are absolutely extraordinary.
And inevitably, today's explosions at the Iranian embassy and the devastating loss of life and injuries are going to intensify. This is in a new front.
I think that those who would argue that this is just a Syrian civil war confined within the borders of Syria haven't got a leg to stand on, really, now that we've seen the export of this war into Lebanon, the overt export of the war into Lebanon. And the truth is that all four surrounding countries, Syria at the centre, Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan and Iraq, all four countries where the International Rescue Committee is doing extraordinary relief work, humanitarian relief work, we are only managing to reach a fraction of those in need. And at the same time, we have a world's attention, if you like, turning away from the Syrian crisis, certainly until today. It's almost as if with the chemical weapons deal done, people were turning on to other matters. And I think the truth is that since the chemical weapons agreement in September, the humanitarian situation has got worse. And what we've seen with today's terrible bombing is that the political situation is getting worse as well. And I wonder if I could just take a moment to explain that when the bomb went off this morning in Beirut, I was having a meeting in the governorate of Mount Lebanon, that's maybe half an hour's drive from Beirut. And when the mayor of this small municipality who I was meeting before going to meet refugees saw on the television the scale of the carnage, you could see him, a shiver going through him at the prospect that Lebanon yet again was going to be drawn into someone else's war.
Well, now, I mean, I know, and we're going to be talking in a moment to Tehran, but the view out of Iran is that somewhere in all this, the Saudi hand is at play. And they really believe that the West is very unwise to link its involvement with the rebels in Syria with that of Saudi Arabia.
I think that, to be fair to Western governments, the accusation against them hasn't been that they've been overactive in the Syria crisis. The Abdullah Azzam brigades, overtly affiliated to Al-Qaeda, I don't think any Western government has any illusions about them. But obviously it is true that both from the Iranian side and from the Gulf, from the Saudi side and others, there is extensive regional involvement in this Syria crisis. Obviously the Russians very strongly backing the Assad government as well. So if what you're asking is, do the players in this Syrian conflict go beyond the borders of Syria? The answer is obviously yes. That's why it's more than a contained civil conflict. And the terrible spectre is of what they call in Lebanon confessional division, sectarian division between different parts of the Muslim faith. And that, I think, really should give everyone pause, because this is now a crisis that combines all the worst elements of civil wars around the world.
David Miliband, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.